Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Jay Cohn. The man charged in the murder of a Broadwater County Sheriff's deputy last year has been found unfit to stand trial.
Doctors who evaluated the suspect who gunned down the deputy and led authorities on a high-speed chase across the state believe 62-year-old Lloyd Barris suffers from a delusional disorder.
At a hearing before Lewis and Clark County District Judge Kathy Seeley today, the state attorney general's office agreed with the evaluation from the state hospital that found that Barris is unfit to stand trial due to years of mental health issues that date back as many as 18 years. Judge Seeley ordered that Barris be committed to the state health department for further evaluation and treatment and has set a new hearing for the 7th of September to review his status. Barris and his son Marshall are accused in the May 2017 shooting of Broadwater County Deputy Mason Moore near Three Forks.
The two men then led officers on a 150-mile chase that ended along I-90 east of Missoula. Marshall Barris was shot and killed in the gunfight with officers. Lloyd Barris was captured. Now, Lloyd Barris is charged with 5 felonies, including deliberate homicide by accountability.
Prosecutors had planned to seek the death penalty in this case.
A third wild animal encounter in Yellowstone National Park this week. The latest attack, bison versus park visitor.
The victim, a 59-year-old California woman who was gored by a bull bison early Wednesday. It happened near the fountain paint pots in the Lower Geyser Basin. Yellowstone officials say a crowd of people walking along a boardwalk approached within 10 yards of the bison. At one point, we're told the visitors came within 15 feet of the animal. Then, as the bison crossed the boardwalk, it became agitated and charged the crowd, goring the woman in her hip.
The bison immediately left the area. The woman was transported to the Big Sky Medical Center in good condition.
This is the second incident of a bison injuring a park visitor this year. There was also another bison visitor incident in 2017. There were 5 in 2015.
Earlier this week, in separate incidents, 2 women were attacked by a cow elk that was protecting her newborn calf behind the Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel.
Anyone, of course, who's lived in Montana for any length of time is aware that you don't need to be in a national park to have an encounter with wildlife. It could happen on the golf course, on your favorite neighborhood trail, even in your own backyard. Bob Gibson with Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks tells us the key is to respect the animal's space.
There's no place in Montana that you would be surprised to run into wildlife. And the key there is, they call it wildlife for a reason. And the key there is to give wildlife some room. And wildlife doesn't always attack somebody because they're trying to protect young. Sometimes they're cornered. Sometimes they're protecting themselves. Sometimes they're trying to escape themselves.
And Gibson says if you happen to find young wildlife on the ground, do not pick them up or even go near them because the mom is likely nearby, and rarely, Gibson says, if ever, are young offspring abandoned.
The body of the young woman recovered from the Missouri River in Great Falls Monday is now identified as 21-year-old Brittany Roberts.
Cascade County Sheriff Bob Edwards releasing her identity tonight, saying the state crime lab in Missoula used dental records and were able to obtain a 100% identification. Roberts, who lives in Absaroka, was found in the river at the Ryan Dam by employees this past Monday afternoon. The official cause and manner of death is still being investigated. Roberts leaves behind a 1.5-year-old son and a fiance.
Witnesses saw Roberts on April 23rd in the river. They said they tried to help her, but the current was too strong. The Roberts family moved to Montana from North Carolina when Brittany was just 11 years old. She moved to Great Falls late last year to join her fiance. President Trump now focused on his upcoming summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Trump is hosting Japanese Prime Minister at the White House, where the two will discuss what they want to see happen in that meeting. Molo Lengi has the latest.
President Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe say they're in agreement. North Korea must end its nuclear program.
Japan and U.S. should closely cooperate with each other so that we will be able to see great success for the historic U.S.-North Korea summit.
The two met at the Oval Office ahead of next week's summit in Singapore. Japan has concerns about North Korea not living up to any deal President Trump may strike during the meeting. But President Trump says he's ready.
I think I'm very well prepared. I don't think I have to prepare very much. It's about attitude. It's about willingness to get things done.
President Trump also agreed to take up the issue of abducted Japanese citizens by North Korea during the summit. President Trump and Prime Minister Abe are also talking trade today, where, despite their close personal relationship, the two men don't see eye to eye. Japan is the only major U.S. ally that did not get an exemption from President Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum. And the Trump administration announced at the end of May it will investigate foreign auto imports to see if they threaten national security.
Obviously, we buy a lot of things from Japan, particular automobiles. We'll have to talk about that.
Motor vehicles make up about 30% of Japanese exports to the United States. Molulengi, CBS News, the White House.
And turning our attention to the weather scene, another bumpy night. We missed most of the action here in Billings, but Bob says not in southeastern Montana. They really got nailed, Bob.
Take a look at this video. Comes to us from Beth Lapp. Her husband, Casey, shot this on the Diamond Ranch. It's between Miles City and Terry, and that thing was just coming down. They had golf ball size hail in that area. I know this car just got bombarded. Take a look at it as it goes into that parking lot. Wow, that's what they had out there today. It had a lot of places, some places even had 2.5-inch size diameter hail. What a big night. Let me show you what it looks like on a Doppler radar. You can see most of the showers that started here in the Billings area. They continue to make their way across into eastern Montana tonight. Let me zoom in over there and show you what we still have working there. The severe thunderstorm watch for southeastern Montana has expired. They actually canceled it early. We still have one for the northeastern corner of the state, and that's a flash flood watch from basically Prairie County, Dawson, Macomb, and Richland County. Heavy rain there in cases of 2-3 inches of rainfall has caused a lot of flooding in that region. So let me show you what it looks like there now. Doppler radar, look at the big storms moving into that region. We have one other thing I want to show you. Look at all the hail reports. Over there in Shirley, 2.5 inches of hail. That was just the diameter of some of the hailstones. Calypso had flooding. Custer had 1-inch hail. Hysham had 1.25-inch hail. And here in Billings, we had 1/4-inch hail and about 1/10 of an inch of rain. We'll have more in your forecast in a few more minutes.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
It's one of the annual rites of spring in Glacier National Park, the plowing of the Going to the Sun Road.
Tonight, MTN's Nicole Miller takes us up the famous highway to check in on this year's plowing progress.
Park officials aren't saying exactly when the road will be open. We could still see a major snowstorm, but thanks to a historically warm spring, plows have made significant progress.
It was always difficult to say right up until that last minute. You know, we got a lot of storms in June, particularly, that can really impact what happens even up until that last day.
Thursday, plow crews cleared snow around Logan Pass, but perhaps Mother Nature helped the most, with the month of May bringing rapid snowmelt due to warm temperatures and wet storms.
There were a couple of days where it was rated high, and that was because we were sort of entering this transition from a dry snowpack to a wet snowpack.
Eric Peich, a scientist with the U.S. Geological Survey, is an expert in predicting avalanches. Avalanches pose a threat to the safety of the crew. Westside Road Supervisor Stan Starr says in his 2 decades, there haven't been any incidents.
My job is to keep them, in the equipment, safe. There's a crew, the pioneering crew, there's, working the road up to start, and then we have the crew that follows behind and starts doing cleanup, log rails.
It's almost 500 logs, and it takes a solid 2 weeks to put in.
Trayson Hopkins was part of the crew Thursday installing guardrails.
They were craning the log into place, and then they've got to bolt it to these pedestals.
The installation of the guardrails is one of the final phases before the road can officially open. In Glacier National Park, Nicole Miller, MTN News.
Thank you, Nicole. Every time I drive up that Going to the Sun, it's like, how did they build this road?
Exactly.
Much less how did they plow it? How did they build it in the first place?
It's beautiful. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, the names of 3 Montana World War II heroes will live on in their memory as VA facilities in this state are named in their honor.
And coming up in sports, high stakes at the NCAA Track and Field Championships. Scott shows us if Christina Aragon runs her way into Saturday's finals.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire and sports with Scott Green. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.